I saw my mom twice. What I didn't realize was that she attended all the events, anything we had a part in, she was there. But she was always in the very back of the auditorium or wherever you were, so I didn't see her, and I didn't know she was there. But later, I realized that she was there all along. And when I became a mom, Mom and I got back very close again. So that was very good. She remarried about a year later, and she lived in the area. And so I did get a chance to see her. About 4 years after that, Dad moved to Texas and took my younger brother and sister with him. So Carolyn, my older sister, had just married. I was a senior in high school and had nowhere to live. So my grandmother let me live with her for a few months. But she was honest as the day is long, and she was on Social Security at that time. And that was the time when somebody from Social Services came around to check on you. And Grandma said, honey, you can't stay here anymore. And I'm crying, and I said, Grandma, why not? What did I do? Because I was paying her rent, what I could afford. I was working I worked waitress at night. I went to class in the morning because I only needed like a credit and a half. Worked in the afternoon, worked at night. So I paid Grandma some rent and helped her with the groceries. So it wasn't that. She said, that's why you can't stay, because Social Security said I can't take anything other than what Social Security gives me, so you have to leave. Mm-hmm. So thanks to a friend, I found a room in a 93-year-old lady's house right across from the hospital. She had an LPN stay with her during the day, and I was there during the night. And they just needed somebody to be with her in the house. I didn't have to nurse her. I didn't have to, other than talk with her and be company for her. And there was no rent, because I did all that in lieu of rent. So it was a place I could afford to be. So I lived it was about the size of a small guest bedroom. And it was lonely. It was very tired. I graduated that year. Wanted to go to nursing school. How many nurses in this room? How many nurses? Anybody? A nurse? Nobody? I always wanted to be a nurse when I was growing up. And I had a partial scholarship to go to St. Louis, but I asked Dad for some help. And Dad at that time, and I think a lot of fathers were like that, he felt that college was for boys and marriage was for girls. So he said, you girls get married, you don't need to go to school, you'll have a husband that'll take care of you. And I'm going. But I know now I could have done it, but at 18 I didn't know that. So I got married. And I was 2 months shy of 19. That was February of 1964. I had my first son. Jeff was born in November 64. Sweet little, here Pop, just do all of them. These are my 3 boys coming around when they were babies. So got married. We grew up Baptist and Methodist, and whichever church was within walking distance, as long as it was Protestant. My first husband was Catholic, and I felt that the boys should be raised with one religion. It would be a whole lot better that way. So I converted to Catholicism, and I was Catholic for about 30 years. Hail Mary and everything. And that stayed until we divorced in 1990, and for about 5 years, he wanted an annulment. And I said, you know, we've got 3 boys and 26 years of marriage behind us. I don't know how you can say it never happened. And I didn't like the name that came to mind what that would do to my boys. Well, by George, about 5 years later, he got his annulment. And I left the Catholic Church. So he and I were hog farmers. We had a 720-acre hog farm. That's a lot of you know what. And he thought it smelled like money, and I thought it smelled like something else, and the boys never did, and I could accept it. Here's some little pictures of John when he was 9. News was kind of slow in our area back then, so they came over and did a little article about John and what it was like to be a little boy on the farm at age 9. He had 4-H cattle, and all the rest were Yorkshire. I don't know if you know your pigs at all, but Yorkshire is a white hog, erect ears, great meat. So they were really the better ones. So I can't remember exactly how many hogs we sold every year. It was well over 1,000. Wow. And every year during farrowing time is when the hogs give birth. Okay, so my biggest responsibility were twofold on the farm. I ran the farrowing barn, so I was in charge of all the birthing and the nursing and the baby pigs. And baby pigs are born with needle teeth and tails, and they tend to chew each other's tails. So every little baby pig that was born, you have clippers. So I'd go in and two on each side, and you clip their needle teeth and bob their tails so they couldn't bite each other and bleed to death. And there was never a farrowing time when we didn't have baby runts in our kitchen. So the boys grew up with pigs and big garden. I ran the combine. I love machinery. I think there's that Y chromosome is alive and well in me. I purely love machinery. So I ran the combine during the fall, and it was always a 6-row. Do you know anything about farm machinery? It was a 6-row header, meaning it would take out 6 rows at a time. Big. The header was almost about as wide as this room is. So you lift it up at the end of the row, you swing it around and drop her down, and off you go. And it did it good, and I absolutely loved that part of it. We always had a big garden. Didn't have 2 acres of tomatoes, but we had a lot of tomatoes. And we always canned. You always knew how many quarts of green beans and this and that and the other you're going to have every year. So that went on for a total of 26 years. And then one day it was just the boys. We lost Jeff, the little blonde, the first. You've got it, Marta? Okay, go down through those pictures there. The second one, maybe. Yeah. We lost Jeff. This was Christmas when he was 3. And in June the following year, Jeff died in a farm accident. His dad felt horrendous because his dad was supposed to be in charge. And he wasn't paying as close attention. Probably if it happened today, the result would have been a lot different. But he was feeling guilty enough as it was and bad enough as it was. We all were. So we lost Jeff at 3½. John they were 17 months apart, so figure out the time frame. And it was John that kept me going. I kept seeing this sad little face looking at me, and I thought, I'm not going to raise him in a sad home. Jeff, what's his name? Ted. Ted, the third one, was born the following April, on John's birthday. So the 2 brothers share April 27th as a birthday. And they thought that was pretty darn cool, so we always had birthdays together. John, the middle one, went on, he became our runner. So the chunky little baby became the slim little junior high runner. He finished high school valedictorian. He went to the Air Force Academy and graduated very high in his class. And had a MacArthur Fellowship, went to grad school in Maryland, got a degree in national security. Worked at the Pentagon for a little while. He always wanted to fly. I forgot to tell you. When in 1971, I got a pilot license. We lived not far from the airport, and my in-laws had a farm directly across the street from the airport. And it just, I wanted to fly. So I learned to fly. I got a private pilot license. Ted was kindergarten that year, and John was 2nd grade. And I picked them up from school. They were going to Catholic school, of course. Pick them up, and they go, Mama, can we go fly today? Please, can we go fly today? So we flew a lot. And I continued to fly. When I moved to Pennsylvania, I joined the Civil Air Patrol because flying is expensive. They had planes. Don, you know that. Don's a pilot. 2 of the members had the steerman biplanes, the open cockpit. It was so fun. So we were able to fly in those and use each other's planes and so forth. So I absolutely love the flying part of it. But it got prohibitive. And when David and I moved here, I just wasn't comfortable with the mountains. But you shouldn't, the air is not a place to be when you're not comfortable. So I didn't. The boys' dad and I separated in 78. We'd separated for a little while. He had the same mindset that my dad did, in that he was dead set against my going to college. And so I argued for about 10 years. I wanted to just take a few classes, whatever. Nope, wasn't going to happen, wasn't going to happen, wasn't going to happen. We separated, and he moved out. And the day that he moved, we were only 3 months, and then he came back. But the day that he moved out, I went straight out to the local community college and met with the president of the college and begged him to let me come to his school. I said, I promise I will work hard. They were 6 weeks into the fall semester. And I said, I'll make up all the back work. I'll do whatever I have to do. Just please let me go. Later, years later, when I was teaching high school, I had his daughter in one of my classes. And he came to parent-teacher night one night, and he said, you don't know this, but I use you for an example a lot. He said, I've never seen anybody so motivated and determined to do something. So he said, if we get the approval of the instructors, then you've got my approval. Well, they did. And I made up all the work, and I finished it with a 4.0. And again, it was a community college, so I got my AA and graduated valedictorian. The kids were all 10 years younger than me, but they voted me class president. How cool is that? I was sort of the liaison between I was closer to the age of the teachers, but I was a student with the rest of the students. So it's kind of maybe we'll get an edge if we put her in. So I did. So I finished that, and then went to, that was a Baptist. His primary focus, it was theology. So from there I went to Quincy. It was Quincy College when I went. It's now Quincy University in Quincy, Illinois. And I got my degree in biology there. When it was September of my senior year, and I didn't want the teaching degree. I wanted a degree in biology, but I had to have the teacher certification because I knew at that point I made a big decision not to go into nursing. And I thought, my boys need a mom more than this world needs another nurse. But if I taught biology, then I could help others go. And that's exactly what I did. So the fall of my senior year in college, the Hannibal Junior High principal called me and asked for a meeting, sat down with him. He was losing his 9th grade physical science teacher. Her husband was a highway patrolman. They were leaving town in October. He said, I really need you. Could you come teach for me and take it from there? And I said, I can't do that. I'm still in college. There was never a semester I had less than 18 hours. It was always 18 to 21 hours. And I said, I've got a full load this semester. I can't. He said, sure you can. Let me see your transcript. Let me see your, whatever you called it, curriculum. Let me see what you're taking, syllabus, whatever. So I showed him what classes I was taking. He was one by, well, you don't need this, you don't need this, and you don't need cell biology, and you don't need organic, and you don't need all that. I said, I need it for me, because I need to understand this. So he said, well, talk to your instructors. So I talked to the instructors, and again, they were very accommodating. They said, we're not going to tell you what you're going to do, but we'll help you whatever you decide. So I had about 6 weeks before I had to start. And keep in mind, I'm 18 hours of credits and 2 boys. And I'm about to go in and teach 9th graders. I've lost my freaking mind. Yeah. But I also felt that the job I really wanted was in my old biology room that I took in high school. He was a horrible teacher. So I really wanted that classroom. And I thought, if I take the 9th grade position and get into the district, I've got my foot in the door, I've got a better chance of getting this when it comes open. And so I did. So I was able to finish 2 of my classes at the college. My lab partner, Tracy, God love her, she's a physician in St. Louis now, but she agreed to take all notes and do our labs on Saturdays. And I think I slept about 3 hours a night that year. But we finished, I graduated, did really well. I got what they call, I totally lost the name of it. I graduated strong, it was like a 3.86 or something like that. So, in my head, and I think it goes back to my dad encouraging all of us to do our best. In my head, anything less than an A just wasn't acceptable, period. Well, I made a B in organic chem and a B in physics that I took one summer, and a B in one chemistry. So I had 3 Bs my entire college career, even including grad school. The 3 Bs that I got came from an instructor, and it goes back to males at that time. He would have been fired in a heartbeat now. But he said very loud and clear in front of classes, I don't believe in giving A's to girls. It just won't happen.
Oh.
You're right.
Bad
We girls
guy.
were livid, and not a blessed thing you could do about it. So it didn't. He said, "I don't care. It doesn't matter what your work is like. It doesn't matter. You won't get an A." And I didn't. So be it. That is the way it is. So I taught physical science then for 2 years, and then my old high school biology teacher wanted to get into counseling. So he left the classroom, went to counseling, and I got his job.
Yes.
So it turned out to be a good decision, and I absolutely loved. It's the best place I ever taught. Best place. I was science department chair and all kinds of good stuff, and the kids wanted more sciences than what we had staff to offer. So I offered independent study classes to them, and that went really well. But each independent study is kind of like another class prep, but it was good. The favorite class independent study was medical terminology, and a lot of my kids did go to nursing, med school, and dental school, and they would come back and they'd say, "We are so far ahead of the classmates because we knew the language."